Hello, hello, hello. It is me, A Fox of the Angela Foxworth Show. That's right. I'm back. I'm here. I really have missed you guys. Thank you to my awesome support that I have out there. I couldn't do this job without you guys. And listen, y'all already know we've been talking about this pay-per-view exclusive interview with the man himself. And listen, even though he has major accolades, okay, major, we already know, but he is such a beautiful, humble spirit.
Oh,
So
thank
that
you.
you are, and I'm just so excited to share you with our audience. I am. Listen, this couldn't have came at a better time when there are so many things going on in life.
Oh,
So
yeah.
first, I want to say thank you guys for tuning in to the Angela Foxworth Show. We are setting it off for season 3, and to be honest, I feel like this is the best season yet. Okay. So we are coming out guns blazing. I have the absolute amazing Grammy award winning Fanatic of the Billie Lennox. He is the lead singer of the Billie Lennox band. But when we talked before, we were actually, you had just started transitioning
Yes.
into this new role.
Mm-hmm.
So, for anybody that doesn't know, which they all know, they all know, you are a major super producer. You always have been. That has
Thank
been
you.
your career the many years. I've said it a million times. You have produced the likes of Beyonce, Notorious B.I.G., Little Kim. I mean, Anthony Hamilton. The list goes on and on and on. You've been in the industry for years. You're iconic, and you're a multi-Grammy winner, which is amazing. And that's not a small feat, right?
Yeah. Nah,
But
not
what
committed.
Yes, yes. But what I absolutely love about you and what is refreshing about you is your raw transparency.
Oh, thank you.
And yes, and the fact that you are very honest about just the industry as a whole, but also about your career and your transitions. So, you know how I do. I like to delve in and really get to know. So, I definitely want to hear from you about what life has been like for you in the industry. We're
Oh,
going to start there
okay.
before I even get to what you're doing now, because what you are doing now
Uh,
is changing the game again.
oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I mean, a lot has happened. Like I said, I had a illustrious career as a producer. Very
Yes.
fortunate, very blessed to work with six, seven, maybe eight of the biggest icons in popular music in the '90s and 2000s, and learn so much from them. Learn so much in their
Yes.
process, their dedication to their craft. It's helped me stand out right now in this industry where we have so much going on with the lack of artist development, with the lack of professionalism, showmanship,
Mm.
physicality, all of these different things that
Mhm.
made a huge difference and made these artists superstars. When you're in the studio with Michael Jackson and you're seeing his process, or Beyonce and you're seeing their process, it's like
Mhm.
just having like a cheat code book to success and how you go about your business as an artist. So I think that that is the one thing that's been able to separate me and things that I really hang on to, because though the music business is changing and you have to pivot and make adjustments to where it's
Mhm.
going, you still have to hold on to some of the things of yesteryear that are basically artist development 101 that help you be the greatest artist that you can be. And so
Yes.
that's one thing. And if you listen to all of them, they'll all tell you, study the greats, study those that came before you, and
Yes.
it will allow you to be greater as an artist. And so I do that. I study those artists that I work with and artists before then. I'm always studying. I'm always a student to artistry and how to impact popular culture through my music, and just making sure that I have purpose. And I'm here for a reason as an artist
Yes.
versus this is not about money. This is not about fame. It's more about purpose and sharing a message and inspiration, and to a sea of artists out there that are looking for answers and looking for direction.
And I think that is what is so just amazing about you. in an industry that is the least of the
Mhm.
concerns.
Yeah.
Most of the time it is about the fame, it is
Mhm.
about the glorification, it is
Right.
about the money. and
Mhm.
and we know this to be true. It's always been said that it's a cutthroat industry,
Mhm.
one that you definitely have to know who you are, or it can swallow you up.
Oh,
My
definitely.
question for you is, because I love to go back to the beginning. Listen, I think we had this conversation before. I'm what you call a root cause analysis, right? That's my discipline. I like to get to the root.
Mhm.
What made you, first of all, what age were you? And what made you decide that this was the industry you wanted to be
Um, I just I was going through. I've always been into music. Very a student of my dad's record collection of James Brown and
in?
Kool and the
Mm-hmm.
Gang and the Ohio Players, to my stepdad's collection of Al Green and Millie Jackson and the Isley Brothers. So I've always been immersed in music and just looking for some way to express myself in that medium. And then hip hop came and it changed my life because it gave me a way to express myself. It was new, it was fresh, it was cutting edge, it was exciting to see these artists emerge from the streets and become these iconic figures in popular music like LL Cool J and Run DMC, and then
Yes.
to see Kanye West and Jay Z and all these other artists do their thing. Hip hop just spoke to me in a way that no other music did, and I just dove in and I just started producing music. And at the time, I didn't even really know I was producing music at the time. I was just
Wow.
making beats and I was writing rhymes and just trying to figure out my way into this thing. And a lot of the music that my parents introduced me to, I was able to call back on that. I went to an all white school for the first 9 years of my life. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
introduction to pop and rock and classic rock
Mm-hmm.
music and all that. So I found that I very early on that I had an advantage over a lot of producers out there because I was into all genres of music and had been
Yes.
introduced to that. And music is a universal language. So when the
Yes.
message is good, it really doesn't really matter what the genre is. It's something that will resonate with a wide audience. And I think that's something that's always helped me with my production, where it was street, but at the same time it was commercial enough and just light enough where you could attract any audience and they would be able to
Yes.
get it. You didn't have to be a hardcore hip hop fan to get my music. And then that filtered over into me doing R&B, and now I'm doing pop and rock. So
Love it.
um, just music was just always something very early on when I got to high school that I really just started expressing myself through the medium of hip hop.
Okay. And so, with that being said, well, first of all, we definitely, before I get to the question that I'm going to ask about hip hop as a whole and that whole genre of music, when was your first big break? Like, when did you know that you knew this
Uh-huh.
was going to be it?
Um, by a friend of mine by the name of Sincere Thompson and
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Hamilton's manager Eli Davis and I were we would drive to New York City. We would sleep on his couch and on the floor and just finding any kind of way to be in New York City where it was all happening. And very humble beginnings in
Yes.
that, and just very hungry and looking for opportunity. Sincere was from New York, so he knew everybody in the industry. He worked at Island Records at the time. And when we found out somebody was working, we would ask him, how can we get in touch with these people? He knew Un and Biggie from back in the day, and
Mm-hmm.
they were at the Hit Factory, which was this iconic studio in New York City where everybody was working, from Bad Boy to Rockefeller to Murder Inc. to just everybody.
Wow.
Devontae and Jodeci, everybody was there. Vincent Herbert was there, and Sincere told us to go to the studio, and if we see Un or Biggie, let them know that we're friends of Sincere's, and you like to play some music for Little Kim, because she was working on her solo record at that time. We had heard, and so we were hanging out at the Hit Factory every day, waiting for these guys to show up. And every day at like 6 o'clock, it was just like these black SUVs would pull up, and a who's
Uh-huh.
who in hip hop and R&B would come out of the car and go upstairs into the Hip Factory. So this one day we happened to run into Un and Biggie, and they asked us to come upstairs. I played
Mhm.
tracks for Biggie, and the next thing you know, a week later, I was in the studio with Biggie and Mace and Cameron, and we were working on Little Kim's album, and the
Right.
record "Crush on You" came out of those sessions.
Wow. That is awesome. How did you feel when that all took place? Did you feel like at that particular time, when you're young, how you get something huge like that? You like, I done arrived, I'm here, this me. Did you have that moment for yourself, or did you just realize this is the beginning of I want even more?
It was just happening so fast. I really
Was it?
wasn't able to digest the moment. I just
Wow.
know it went from we were in the studio producing this record, and then we were back home in Greensboro. And next thing you know, every time I got in the car, the song was playing on the radio, and I was like, "Oh, what
Wow.
is going on?" And so, and so from there, we just made sure that we got back to New York so that we could capitalize on the moment. And we ended up producing a bunch of artists and meeting a bunch of people from there. So that was the moment that I would just realize that I could probably do this professionally at a very high level, because you're
Yes.
competing with New York City and the producers and the artists and the creators in
Yes.
New York City. And here you are from this small town in North Carolina, but you have yourself set on the pulse of where music is going, and you're a
Yes.
part of it. So that was just like the first time I really thought that I could do this as a career, and I was just anxious to dive in and make my mark with these other artists that were out here.
Yes, I love that. And it's so strange because back then you did feel like it was limitless. And
Mhm.
I love what you said too. It's like you were in with the movers and the shakers. New York, it couldn't be any bigger. They
Right.
started pretty much the hip hop revolution,
Yes.
that ended up becoming what we have worldwide and global.
Hmm.
The thing is, what I'm going to ask is about the comparison from here, then, and where we're at today.
Oh.
There used to be a time where it was such a respect music.
Mhm.
Like hip hop made you proud.
Right.
It talked about the struggles that you had. They had a respect for women and mothers. you
Mhm.
know they had a respect for brotherhood, you
Right.
know up until we started getting into the gangster raps and the
Mhm.
different things, and the the coming together, and competing with each other, so to speak. But
Right.
before then, it was such a positive thing. Where do you think we started changing, and why did we begin to change from something so positive that was something owned by, for us, by us,
Mhm.
that ended up, just transforming into now? And it could be that I'm old. Let me just put that out there.
No,
I
no,
look,
no, no,
look,
no,
I'm
no.
over half a century now, so it may be that I just don't understand, but
Uh,
it is a total difference than when we
uh,
were growing up.
Well, I think hip hop eventually became a product of our capitalist society that we live in, because when it
Yeah.
started out, it was so pure, it was so beautiful, because it was young kids that were finding an outlet for
Yes.
their creative expression, and so it was like different. Everybody in New York City alone, there were different boroughs, and they never sounded alike. Everybody was doing something different, from the native
Yes.
tongue to what they were doing, and with Chuck D and Public Enemy,
Yes.
to what they
Yes.
were doing with De La Soul. It was just very creative, and everybody was expressing themselves in a very creative way, and
Yes.
just that one region of the country. And of course, it spread, to LA, as well as
Yes.
down south, things like that. So it was at that time, it was just really a beautiful way of young kids expressing themselves, kids that didn't really have any direction on what they wanted to do in life, because before that it was either go to college or go to the army, but now kids
Yes.
are finding out how do this at a professional level and make money for it and create a living for themselves. So it was just a beautiful time. And then MTV came along, and then it just exploded because now
Yes.
MTV put hip hop into the living rooms of 40 million people every day
Yes.
after school. And so at that
Yes.
time, it was no longer taken as a fad. It became big money. And when these
Yes.
record labels saw that they could cash in on this, they all got involved. And at that point, they started controlling what was being seen and getting the
Yeah.
proper exposure, as well as the messaging that was getting the most eyeballs. So
Yes. Yes.
gangster rap comes in, NWA, groundbreaking, going against
Yes.
the grain, doing things in hip hop that had never been done before. And,
Yes.
you know, then the whole gangster thing just came. And then all of a sudden,
Yes.
everything changed. And big money was being made off of it. And things just changed. And then Southern rap eventually came in and just
Yes.
glorifying the Southern lifestyle,
Yes.
some of the not so beautiful parts of the South.
Right. The
We're talking
dirty South.
right. We're really
That was
talking
where
about
we
in the
used to
music.
coin the dirty. I come from the dirty South.
I
Yes.
do too. But there are things in the South that I'm not so proud of,
Yeah.
growing up and witnessing. There's
Yeah.
beautiful parts of the South that were being celebrated, but then there were also
Yeah.
dark parts of it with the drug dealing and violence and
Yes.
all of these different things and the disrespect and all these things. And so when those things started to happen, the record labels gravitated towards that and started really pushing that type of music. And
Yes.
then it just started taking over. And now here we are today in a place
Yes.
where this art form that we created that was so unique and so unique to us and how
Yes.
we express ourselves, right?
Yes.
It became this thing now where now they've dumbed it down with the production. They've taken
Yes.
out now the elements of hip hop were breakdancing, DJing, making beats, and MC.
Yes.
So when you have
Yes.
those four core elements in the art form, and then you dumb those things down where
Yeah.
everybody can do it, because before you had to have a certain type of skill to do any of those things.
Yes.
But when you
Yes.
dumb those things down, and all of a sudden everybody can do them,
Yes.
now it dilutes the art form and it changes everything about it, where it doesn't have the same impact that it once had.
That's
And
true.
so commercialism came in and all these things started happening, and then all of a sudden
Yes.
now here we are in a place where something that we did was so special to us that we created could easily be
Yeah.
gone in 10 years because it's not selling like it used to. It's
Correct.
infiltrated R&B music. It's infiltrated R&B and soul music to
Yes.
the point now
Yes.
that you can't even really have an R&B record without
No.
elements of hip hop in it. So it kind
That's
of killed
correct.
the R&B aspect of our music, which were people that were coming from the church, very
Yes.
spiritual people expressing themselves. It had chord progressions, it had
Yes.
vocal ability,
Yeah,
very
because like I love that you said that. Like that you had to be educated because
definitely.
back then it really was about being a true lyricist.
Yes,
There
yes,
is a difference between, and let me just say this, in all fairness, it definitely was a time where, those were really our business people. And
definitely.
then they used that outlet in order to, reach the world. But
Hmm.
the thing is, like you said, because we have dumbed it down, and I want to explain to the audience commercialism. When
Right,
we say commercialism, we're talking about status quo. We're
right,
talking about doing what everybody want you to do,
right,
for them to be able to put a face on what they want the image to be. It's
right,
about propaganda
right.
because it was the degradation of the African American community,
Yes, yes.
because at that particular time we owned it. So once it got taken over and we started getting into the bickering with each other, it started, kind of having a slave effect, so to speak, like a Willie Lynch mentality, if you will, because then we started pitting each, us against us,
Yeah.
light against dark, good
Right.
hair against non-good hair, body shapes against non-body shapes. Like it just became that sort of thing. Now we've lost total focus on what we initially started, which was
Definitely.
a message of unity, a
Hmm.
message of love. There was love back then. And like I
Yeah.
told you, respect, you know, and you did have to have a level of education in
Definitely.
order to be able to spit those lyrics. Now you can say, I can come to you with a hot beat, right?
Hmm.
And I'm not I feel like I am a writer, but I definitely can't keep up with the rap thing, right? But
Right.
listen, if I say to you, hey, Fanatic, hey, what time is it? And we get a good beat, I can just rhyme the
Hmm.
it with bit,
Yeah.
with,
It's
sit,
definitely been
and
simplified.
it's an album.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an
And, and,
album.
and the thing about it is that then you start seeing on social media the propaganda of how you can make so much money doing it. So you see
Yes,
these platforms that are not controlled by us dictating what we see and what
yes,
which content is pushed to the forefront where everybody sees it. And so you
yes,
start seeing all this capitalist behavior with all of these young kids making all of this money doing it,
yes,
and and that becomes the message to the kids as they're growing up. This is the way.
yeah,
And what ends up happening is now when you do that, right, now you have a situation where the record labels are promoting that. So what ends up happening is you think the only way that you can get an opportunity to participate in music is to go down this path and do this
yes,
type of thing that they're doing.
yes,
And what that does is when you have artists that have black artists that aren't getting the opportunities to participate, they will
yes,
do anything to get in this
yeah,
genre of music or just get in the record business.
yes,
They would do anything. And so now we're stuck in this place where R&B has to sound a certain way, hip hop
yes,
has to sound a certain way, and if it doesn't get promoted.
yeah,
But my only disdain with this is the executives that have been in the business for a very long time that understand superstars and artist development and messaging and the impact of Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, as well as
yes,
Tupac's Dear Mama, as well
yes,
as Public Enemy, as well as even just good rap with it, like
yes,
a balance. I will say that, a balance.
yes.
Because there is room for some of the content that they're speaking on, because that
Mhm.
is reality and that is
Yeah,
our
it is.
right.
It
And
is. Yes.
freedom of speech is very important, but you have
Yes.
to have a balance, and there was always a balance, but now there's no balance. So you find
Correct.
a lot of executives throwing away all of the knowledge and insight that they've amassed over the years and
Yeah.
chasing analytics and chasing this form of music versus standing up for our culture and making sure we're properly represented in terms of the full spectrum of our music and our experience and our culture
Yes.
versus
Yes.
just chasing a check. And that's where I'm a little disheartened by where we're going. And I don't I don't think it's gonna fare too well if we keep going down this path and we're
Yeah.
celebrating these artists that are just doing this one form of music that is not
Yeah.
a representative of us as a whole.
Well, and I can tell you right now, certain generations are absolutely tired of it. We definitely want to go back to the days of, just I think people are starting, even the younger generations that are coming in now,
Mhm,
they're even starting to feel some kind of way about this
mhm.
digital revolution,
Right.
where we just talked about this today. There's a marketing trend now
Mhm.
where the Gen Zers and the Gen Alphas, because I just found out today the Alphas are the one under the Zers. Those are our youngest,
Right.
and they're going back to days of nostalgia. They
Mhm.
want to, because they don't have historically, like they hear the conversations of their parents and like, oh, back in the day when I did this and this and that. Well, to them, they don't have a back in the day.
Right.
They didn't get the opportunity to be able to understand just how, culturally, and when I say culture, I'm saying all, because hip hop
Mhm.
was one of those genres that will unite us all. You know
Oh,
what I
definitely.
mean? It
Definitely.
is the one genre that you can find in Asia, you can find in Africa, you
Everywhere.
can go to Sweden and you'll see hip hop. And
Hmm.
so, with that being said, they're even to a point where they're trying to change the message and the rhetoric, because it tends to, it's almost like art imitating life,
Hmm.
because honestly, that's what our lives have become. Women dress super provocative, because in today's world, the less you have, the farther you go. But
Right.
is that a respect factor? Like, will you respect yourself in the end? Like, what are we willing to, how much are we willing to sell our soul for a buck, or
Right.
for the opportunity to be seen? And a
Hmm.
lot of times, what I don't like about it is that they are capitalizing off of broken people.
Definitely.
People who don't
Right.
have money, people who are poor. They're willing to do anything to
Right.
be able to say this, that, and the other.
Hmm.
And it used to be a time, remember back in the day, like way back in the day, where if you had an album, right, and just say your album was adult content, you
Hmm.
still had to do one gospel album, or one gospel,
Hmm.
or something positive on your record. That's
Hmm.
not even heard of anymore. Like, gone of the day, are the days of that.
Well,
So,
even just us celebrating ignorance
yep,
is something that is a problem for me.
yeah,
Where you're because now it's like if you have a record that hits doing that, now all of a sudden you're put in this box where you have to keep replicating that over and over
yep,
again, seeking
yep,
success. When I'm sure to some degree all of that exists with all of us, but there are multiple sides to all of us. So
yes, yes,
expressing just that side of you constantly over and over again for financial gain or get it or to get a hit record is ridiculous to me because I take an artist like Cardi B and I've listened
mhm,
to her interviews and her serious interviews, and I know there's so many different sides to her,
yeah,
very
yeah,
complex sides to her, a very
yes,
interesting story and so much
yes,
going on. And the same thing with Sexy Red. But
yes,
when this record hits talking about this one particular thing, and the record
yes,
company is on you to keep replicating that for financial gain and for hit records, you're
yes,
forced to continue to do that. And that's why albums are not selling and they're just pushing singles. Because when you listen to an album, you really learn about every aspect of that person's life.
yeah,
You really
yeah,
were becoming a real fan at that point because you found things in common with other sides to them. And
yeah,
what's so crazy about it is white artists get to do that because you
yeah,
can listen to Billie Eilish album or Olivia
yes,
Rodrigo, and you can
yes,
hear the full spectrum of what she's about in every aspect of her life,
yes,
who she is, through these songs. Whereas
yes,
we're held to every single has to be about this one thing,
yes,
one
yes,
one thing, and now we have a collection of 16 songs talking about this same
the
thing
same thing.
16 different ways. And
Yeah,
it's not fair to artists that have invested a lot of time
yeah,
into this, into being an artist and developing and working on their craft to get to this point. To now you're at this point, but you are being held to this one topic continuously, or else you're irrelevant to the music audience, music buying audience. So
yes,
it's a bad direction that we're headed with this thing, and
yeah,
we may lose as we have with blues, as we have with jazz, as we have
yeah,
with rock, as we have
yeah.
gospel. All of these genres, we were at the top in all of these genres.
Yes, we were.
Then we became, uh, you know, put in a system where we had to concede to non-creative people making decisions, and we were forced out
Yes,
of those genres, and we left those genres alone and moved on. So I
yes.
just think we need to just be more responsible in what we're putting out there. And some of those songs are okay, but you don't need 16 songs on an album
No, you don't.
about that.
You don't. And to be honest with you, let's even be even more honest. We be picking up them beats before we pick up anything, really, because let me tell you, there were beats on some songs, and
Mhm.
I kid you not, when I heard the actual explicit version, not even the radio version, I was
Mhm.
over there like, oh my God, I was dancing to that. Didn't even know that's what they were saying,
Right.
because we've gotten so far from where it needs to be. Now,
Mhm.
here is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak,
Mhm.
where you are positioned in what you're doing now. First
Mhm.
of all, I want you to tell everybody what you're doing now and what made you decide to make this shift. Now, you'll
Uh,
always be a producer, even if it is
yes,
of yourself, because
of
that's
course.
just innate in you. But what made you decide it is time for me to step out in what I want to do?
Well, when the pandemic happened, I had a chance to sit back and without the pressures of everyday life where I'm just waking up making music every day. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought about it at that time, like, who is somebody that I would really like to work with? What's an artist? And when I looked around, I didn't really see a lot of artists out there that were inspiring me. I wasn't inspired by the music that I was hearing on the radio or
Mm-hmm.
seeing on the internet or on Instagram or YouTube. And I was always taught, actually, by one of my mentors taught me. He said that if you don't like what you hear on the radio, make something, change it by making something that you do like. And
Love it.
when I started thinking about that, I was like, well, the things that I came up on were a fusion. Every if you listen to every
Mm-hmm.
icon out there, right? Every
Mm-hmm.
icon did a fusion of something. They were
Yes.
mixing rock and pop. They were mixing R&B and pop or country or anything. They were just mixing up genres. And when you
Yes.
mix up genres, now all of a sudden you bring everybody into the room because somebody could
Yes.
be in this part, this aspect of it, or somebody could be in this aspect of it. And so rock music to me has been something that I've always been fascinated with. It's something that I grew up listening to. It's
Mm-hmm.
our music. We
Yes.
created it. It came from
Yes.
blues. It's so funny because when we created it, they called it the devil's music. All of a
Right.
sudden,
Right.
some guy by the name of Elvis Presley showed up and they were like, oh, we
Yep.
can make money off of this.
This
It's
is
not the
art.
devil's music. So now
Yes.
all of a sudden, they latched on to it, pushed us to the background and
Yes.
took over. And it's just so interesting to me that here we are in 2024, and I look around and I don't see very many people that look like me creating rock music. And
Correct.
and what's very interesting about it is you can go from Little Richard to Chuck Berry to Jimi
Yes.
Hendrix to Prince to Lenny Kravitz to
Yes.
Terrence Trent D'Arby, all these different Living Color, all these different examples that come along every 10, 12 years or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
They show up, they allow us to participate in this genre. And when they allow us to participate in this genre, we immediately run to the front of the line and we become the biggest thing in that genre. All those
Yes.
artists that I named are iconic rock and roll artists,
Yes, they are.
all entered into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and were like the biggest
Yes.
thing at the time when they came out
Yes.
because us,
Yeah.
our people, we
Yes.
are celebratory people. So
Yes.
anytime when you've been oppressed for so long and you've been in bondage for so long, and all of a sudden you're liberated, right?
Yes.
Expression comes out. So you see it in our clothes, you see it in our sexuality, you see it in
Yes.
our musicianship, you see it in our performance, you see it in our lyrics, you see it in our visuals, you see it in everything. We are very celebratory people.
Yes.
So it becomes very interesting. It's very interesting. And
Mhm.
and that translates to anything. It translates to sports and how we play our sports and the things that we do
Yes.
with the end zone celebrations and how we wear our
Yes.
clothes and all these things. And every opportunity when we get a chance to do it, we take it somewhere and express it in a whole different way. And that's
Yes.
why I chose rock and roll, because that is a music that is all about rebellion and liberation and all of
Yes.
those things. And I was like, when I look at those artists that I named, they all expressed themselves in that way. And it was always
Yes.
interesting to everybody. So I chose to do that genre of music. And it's been great for me. It has given
Awesome.
me a new way to express myself as I'm growing personally and professionally. And I just love it. And I'm just hoping that I can inspire other young artists to take an opportunity to go down that path because I know
Yes.
they want to do it. I know because I
Yes.
saw Pharrell, when I saw Pharrell and Andre 3000 and these people like that do it,
Yes.
made me want
Yes.
to do it. Childish Gambino,
Yes.
all these people, I'm like, look how
And
liberated.
took it to a whole nother level.
A whole nother level. And so
Yes.
I believe that we can do the same, but they just have to see, people just have to see us do it. We have to be given
Yes.
the opportunity to do it. And when we do it, they will see it and you will see our music go to a whole nother level. Because when we express ourselves in that space, We do
Yes.
something very unique that is very
Yes.
hard to replicate. So hopefully this journey for me, and that's what it's all about for me, is inspiring people
Yes.
to liberate themselves musically and in every aspect of their life and express it and put it into music. And I think when you see that, you will see a change in our music, and you will see
I
artists
agree.
come out that you could never imagine before doing things that we naturally do.
Yes. Yes. And the thing that I love too is that I feel like everybody should should be able to listen to all genres of music.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
you talked about being in predominantly white schools for,
Mhm.
the same with me through 12th grade.
Mhm.
I was always in a white neighborhood only because my mother didn't want to be, in the projects with
Mhm.
everybody else because she was scared. That's number one.
Right.
But number two, she always wanted us to be in a better school district so
Uh-huh.
that we could get education. And unfortunately, they would be really, particular about where
Mhm.
those areas would be. So when going to a predominantly white school, we listen to classical music. We listen to, like you said, folk music and
Mhm.
different things, country,
Yeah.
all of these different genres, and you just end up having a greater appreciation
Yeah.
for that music, and it allows you to even widen your spectrum. So I love that you talk about the collaboration of rock and soul,
Mhm.
because that is your Lenny Kravitz. That was
Hey.
your Prince. That was your
Mhm.
Michael Jackson was pop, but he was a little of everything. Um,
Everything.
yes, everything. So
Mhm.
he, threw R&B in there. He threw rock and roll in there. And I
Yeah.
remember when he first, was accused of what he was accused of, and then he was really angry. I used to love that song "Scream" when
Oh
it
yeah.
came out. Him and Janet
Yeah.
Jackson.
The lyrics
That
in that
song.
song. Oh my God.
Oh my, it
Yeah.
was on a whole nother level,
Yeah.
and it did scream at you. It
Yeah.
made you mad. It made, and another one of his songs that I often, when I need to do a gut check on myself,
Mhm.
"Man in the Mirror,"
Oh,
because
definitely.
the lyrics of that song
Mhm.
will also, it impacts you in ways that are life changing. And
Definitely.
I think that that is what we miss. I'm so tired of
Mhm.
hearing about, bees and hoes and this and that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this booty, this and that. And I have to even to my young ladies out there, this is no judgment,
Mhm.
because of course they're gonna say, well, Angela, you're a big lady, so of course you be hating on the thin women, but that's not true. But what
Yeah.
I want to say to some of my beautiful women, and that's any color, because this has affected all
Mhm.
races, but
Mhm.
your value is not in how big your booty is. It's
Right.
not in how big your breasts are. It
Mhm.
truly is about what you feel about yourself as a woman.
Right.
And the respect level needs to come up,
Mhm.
period. And for the young men out there, just think, for every B and hoe you call on, so that was your mother,
Right.
okay, that birthed you. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying?
Oh no, and
And
that's somebody's sister, that's somebody's
and
mother, that's somebody's aunt, that's
period.
somebody's grandmother. But also
Period.
too, what we have to realize is that these stories or these topics that they're talking about in these songs, right? They've existed since the beginning of the time. But
Yeah.
when you have a lyricist like a Smokey Robinson that can
Yeah.
talk about those same things, but use imagery and symbolism and things like
Correct.
that in a clever way that makes you think,
Correct.
right? That's all I'm saying. I'm not telling you don't change the message, because the message is
Correct.
real, but there's a
Yes.
way of conveying the message that is very different. And all that stuff happened when R. Kelly came on the scene. But
Hmm.
but the difference is, right, R. Kelly can
Hmm.
do a record that is simplistic as "You Remind Me of My Jeep," but then he
Yeah.
can also write "I Believe I Can Fly."
Yes. Yes.
So like I said, there has to be a balance in all.
Yes.
And Beyonce
Yes.
just showed us this is the perfect time for artists to venture out and explore creatively different
Yes.
times. Because Beyonce just showed us that you can do that with this
I'm
country
telling
album
you.
that went number one. So
Yes.
all of this
And I'm
music
talking
comes
about in
from
a
us.
matter of when she
Yeah,
dropped it, it was already there,
yeah, it's
and
embedded in
she
us.
has taken that to a whole nother level
Yeah,
of country, and it's gonna make other people listen to that.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
gonna bring those people to that genre.
But we all have to be as brave as her and take
Yeah.
those same steps because, like, even for me as a producer, I've always ventured out and left field and tried to take an artist somewhere different than they've ever been before. With the Beyonce record Speechless, this was the first time she was talking about an erotic encounter with an individual. Before that, it was just love songs. With Michael
Yes.
Jackson, we got back to him singing to a girl about his love for this
Yes.
woman. Before that, it was he was doing all these heal the world songs.
Yes.
And since it was Lady My Life, then it was all these heal the world songs. But this was the
Yeah.
first record where he went back to that. So my thing as a producer, when I'm shopping material to different
Mm-hmm.
artists, I always try to go in left field and do something that's going against the grain. That one helps the artist grow, helps you see them in a different light, but
Mm-hmm.
also everybody else is going to submit the records that sound like something that she's already did. Oh, this sounds
Yes.
like a Beyonce record. So they're going to submit the records that sound like that. I always
Yes.
want to submit that record that is going to change your perception of them and take them somewhere else. And it's the
Yeah.
same way as us creating music as artists. Right now
Yes.
is the perfect opportunity to go out in left field and do something very different,
Yeah.
very, very off the grid, something that we haven't seen before. So I encourage artists to take that opportunity to do that versus trying to make the mindless, simple, same
Yeah.
record that everybody else is making on the radio, thinking that you're going to create a career from that. And
Yeah.
that music is already there. Let's do something different. Let's change the vibration.
Well, I tell you what, that is the perfect segue into your first single
Mhm.
as you've changed, uh, uh, from super producer to now,
Mhm.
your own genre of music.
Yes.
And I want you to tell everybody, because again, you're fanatic
Uh-huh.
of the Billie Lennox, the lead singer of the
Yeah.
Billie Lennox band.
Right.
When you first decided to make that transition, you had your first single. I
Mhm.
want you to tell our audience what the single is and
Uh,
what it's celebrating, because you just spoke about how you can, have a song about a woman
uh.
and it doesn't necessarily have to degrade her.
Right. So my first single was called Scars, and
Hmm.
it was about I always tried to experience things in life. I was just always open myself up to experiencing things and
Hmm.
then letting the music let it fuel the music. So I wrote
Okay.
about it, and it was I was just coming out of a situation with a young lady, and it was basically about taking your scars from your previous relationship and bringing it
Mm,
into your new relationship and not taking that time to heal first and
yes.
and then proceeding. And I think
Yes.
we're all guilty of that so many times where we've been hurt or things from our past or traumas from our past relationships, that we haven't healed from, and we end up bringing them into the new relationship, and it taints the relationship, and it's very hard to move forward or to build a productive relationship with someone when you're bringing your baggage from
Yes.
your person. So the record was called Scars, and that's what I
Mhm.
really wanted to talk about in there. And hopefully people would hear that record and realize, hey, I'm guilty of that, of bringing my scars from my previous relationships into this new relationship, and
Yeah.
it's caused so much trauma and things that are going on in this relationship that this relationship can't even survive. So I was just hoping from the visual that I put out on the record, which is on YouTube, as well as what I was singing about in the song would help people because we're messengers. As
Yes.
recording artists, we're messengers. When we write these songs, we're hoping that our life experiences that we're writing about or whatever we're writing about will touch somebody and help somebody through a difficult time in their life.
Yes.
I feel a sense of obligation as an artist to use my artistry to help people because we are the messengers. People listen to music 24 hours a day.
Yes, they do.
So you have to be responsible. You have to not take that 3 minutes of somebody's day for granted
Yeah.
by just filling them with nonsense, when you can
Yeah.
provide something that can help them and lift them out of a dark space, or celebrate
Yes.
a moment in their life. That's been my
Yes.
thing. I've always been the one where I'm in the club now and Crush on You comes on and I'm in the corner and nobody knows I even made that record. But I see these people reacting to that record and
Yes.
feeling it. And I'm like,
Yes.
wow, something that I made in my bedroom still makes people feel something
That's
20
right.
years later. And that's
That's right.
that's our job as messengers and musicians. So we have to really be responsible with that obligation and
Mhm.
and really take it serious.
So, do you think that with that mindset, there is an opportunity to change where we're at? Or do you feel like we're so far gone, it just, what is the point?
Well, it's never too late, right?
Okay.
Because like I said, at the end of the day, you have the opportunity. We've seen artists do this. We've seen artists make a
Yeah.
total transition and
Yeah.
change with their audience because, with marketing, you can always find an audience. The only
Yes.
advantage the record labels have over us is they have the ability to reach a mass number of people and you can
Yes.
find your audience sooner. But we have the internet. You have to look at it
Yes.
like your Instagram page. You started out with one post and
Yeah.
you just kept posting consistently every day. And then when you look up, you have 1,500 posts, you have 5, 10, 20,000 followers,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
So you can find an audience that will gravitate to your message and the music that you're doing. And I just say, it's never too late to change and really take your music somewhere that can be productive for a lot of people.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, what would you tell the youth, like our up and coming artists who are, just anxious? They want to live this life, they want to, create art, they want their art to be seen. What advice would you give a young fanatic, as he's embarking in today's
Uh-huh.
music world?
I would just encourage them to be uninhibited, express yourself freely, whatever you're feeling, whatever is on your mind, because somebody is going through that exact same thing that you're going through, and create from that space. Don't chase this thing for money and fame, because my whole thing, what I've seen in my lifetime, is that when artists are very honest and authentic to who they are,
Mm-hmm.
they end up blowing up and resonating with a huge audience. And
Yes.
then the fame and the money comes with that.
It comes to,
So,
yeah.
so I just encourage them to just be very authentic and be free with expressing yourself. Don't be confined to a genre. Just express whatever you feel. And more than anything, make sure you have a spiritual connection with God, because He's the only one that can really help you navigate
Amen.
this, this business. Because this business
Amen.
is all over the place. You have so many people coming at you. You're going to be tested on
Yes.
so many different fronts. So you have to have a
Yes.
very strong spiritual connection in order to get through this. And I think,
Yes.
and for me, early on in my career, when I was having all this success as a producer, I
Mm-hmm.
thought they were just two separate things. And I would deal with my spirituality in this space and my career in this space. But then I
Mm-hmm.
realized that when you deal with them in that, you must deal with them simultaneously, because that's the only way you're going to be able to navigate this business. Because this business, let's be frank, is built on exploitation.
It
And
is. Yes.
when it's built on exploitation, you're basically in the devil's playground. So you
Yes.
need God to help you navigate those waters and
Yes.
keep you sane more than anything.
Yes.
But
Yes.
being able to understand what's going on, because through those conversations that I'm constantly having with him, I'm understanding and I'm being groomed for the
Yes.
next phase of my career. And you
Yes.
need that, because once you get there, it's going to happen so fast. That's not the time to try to figure out how to
Okay.
form a relationship with God. You got to do that now.
Yes, yes. And that way you get the right direction and guidance,
Mhm.
because when I first started, doing this as an independent artist, and I love being independent because I
Mhm.
love the true expression of,
Mhm.
your right to free speech. I
Yeah.
just absolutely love it. So, I came in and I was just so green, and I just thought, oh my God, I love everybody, and this is such a great, and I would, you would have the people smiling at you and telling you what
Mhm.
they feel and this and that. And never in a million years did I think that anybody would be corrupt.
Yeah, yeah.
I never knew people would even backstab because I was like, well, no, I would have to be Oprah for that, for that level, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
and here's the thing: you can never lose your passion for making music, and that's the thing that really saved me
yes,
more. Other than my
yes,
spirituality, that's the thing that saved me more because I remember what it felt like to make that music in my bedroom
yes,
and see people react to it. So when you have that and you love that, right? You love that
yes,
expression that you can make people feel something, you'll never lose your passion for music. And that's the
yes,
only thing that will get you through the dark times. It'll get you through the times when people take advantage of you in this business. I've experienced
yes.
that. And coming from the South, you're so naive and you just think, you know,
Yeah. Everybody's
everybody's
just,
just,
we
good
love
people. And
everybody.
I was like, Mom, he tells all about God. He always keeps talking about God. And others
Yes,
be the people that
yes,
will stab you in the back and all of this.
yes,
They're called city slickers for a reason. But the thing
yes,
about it is, you get taken advantage of. But as long as you focus on your because when you were making music in your bedroom, you wasn't getting paid anything. You
that's
just
right.
loved the fact that you had an
That's
idea
right.
in your head and you could birth it into a song and people could
That's
feel it.
right.
So as long as you stay focused on that, you will always be able to endure the ups and downs of the business because it's always
Yes.
changing. There's a whole cast of characters in this thing that you have to be aware of. So you
Yeah.
just gotta always just focus on the foundation, which is your spirituality and your love for music.
Look, I call those ebbs and flows because
Yeah,
you got
definitely,
them right.
definitely.
You got them.
Everybody experiences, no matter who you are, you
Yes.
will experience those things in your career.
Yes. Well, Fanatic, I want to know what next? Where are we going from this point? Tell us about your band. What is going on? Because you
Mhm.
first started out solo, right?
Right, right. It started
And
off as a solo project because I was writing and producing all the music myself. And the
uh-huh.
band is really just an extension of being able to bring that music to life on stage.
Love that.
I'm more or less in there producing all the music myself, writing and producing all the music myself. But I think showmanship, the live experience, is so important that I want to make sure that I have the band members around me that can bring that to life and people can feel that because it's a whole different experience than the record. It's a personal connection with you and the fans in the audience. So I know there are things that I experienced in seeing great artists perform in the past that I want to keep those things alive because now the stage show has gotten so watered down where it's people singing on top of the vocals, just jumping around on stage, throwing water on each other. So it's not the same experience that I'm used to where I know because like you take an artist like Prince, like he was out since the 70s and his stage show was so good that all the way up until he was gone, it was still relevant, it was still potent, it was still something to see. And
Yes.
so those things, when you really have a great stage show, you can be relevant forever. So my
Yes.
thing is just putting the band together and being able to bring the experience from the records to the stage, as well as just finishing the album and creating music on a regular basis that will make this album so impactful. I want this to be just a musical statement that will stop everybody and say,
Yes.
what is this? And can we get on the train and can we create from this space also? And I want to look up 2 years from now and see people of color doing this type of
Yes.
music at a very high level and getting the support from major labels and see it everywhere. And once we get
Yes.
into that, you will see music change because we do run the culture. We do. There is no culture without us. We do express
Yes.
ourselves in a certain way. And I'm crazy, but I know that there's some other artists out there that their imagination is 20 times what mine is and can
Yes.
thing even further. So I just want to see music get back in a very creative, imaginary space where we're all
Yes.
different and we're all creative. Because when you look at the 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, it was like 20 icons out at one time.
Yes.
None of them
Yes.
sounded alike.
Yes.
They all were doing something different,
Yes.
impactful.
Yes.
And I want to look up and I want to see that with the music community out here that we're all doing something different and very impactful.
Well, listen, I am hopeful. I really am because I would like to see the same thing as a
Yeah.
recipient of being able to enjoy good music.
Yeah.
I definitely want to get back to that. And like you said, everybody has their own niche.
Hmm.
You just have to make sure that you stay authentic to that,
Yes.
and it will resonate, and it
Yeah.
will allow, and like what you're doing,
Mhm.
find something new, fresh,
Yeah.
that no one is doing, and
Mhm.
make that your standalone,
Yeah,
and
because
that's
it
just
all
what
started
it
on
is.
the underground anyway, to a very
Yes,
small audience, and
yes,
then eventually it just grew and grew. So like I said, don't worry about if what you're doing doesn't sound like anybody else's. That's a
yeah,
good thing that it doesn't sound like anybody else's. Just be authentic
yes.
to it, and try your best to articulate your vision, and you'll find people that are rocking with it.
I love it. I love it. It is just always such a pleasure
Wow.
interviewing you because like I said, I am floored by your transparency and your
Thank you.
honesty. And to be mainstream, it's rare.
And well, I want
So
to thank you because these conversations are, first of all, you're a messenger. You are here to
sir,
provide a message for people. By bringing these guests on your show, you are providing a service to people so that people can get this information
yeah.
and apply it. So I want to thank you for even this opportunity, because
Oh,
I feel like I'm in therapy, and all these things that are going through my head, I'm actually getting to get them out and express myself.
yes,
And like I said, when it comes to my career, I'm always just moving forward. I rarely get an opportunity to think back in retrospect to the things that I did before. And
yes,
sometimes you got to celebrate yourself. You got to
yes,
celebrate your past accomplishments, because that gives you the optimism to keep going when you think about all these phenomenal things that you did against all odds. So
yes,
even sparking those thoughts has helped me today as I go into the studio later and create. And now I have even more confidence that I can shake it up again and do something
yes.
different and just be brave and go against the grain. So I appreciate this opportunity to speak on your platform and
Thank
to
you.
convey all this.
Hey, listen, the honor is all mine. I am so excited. But I want, before you leave this
Mhm.
show, please tell our audience how they can connect, how
Yeah.
they can support, anything that you need to tell them. Please let them know because I'm going to keep rerunning this so they can know.
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Fanatic, aka Billie Lennox. Spell Billy, Billie, Lennox. Fanatic, aka Billie Lennox. You can find me on Instagram. Please follow me. Please come on this journey with me. You guys comment, like, go through my stories every day, go through my post every day, and just see what I'm up to, and what I'm trying to learn about myself, and expressing myself through my music, and be a part of this with me, because we're not going to stop. We're going to get all the way to the finish line with this
Yes.
thing. This is one of the things that I've been so passionate about, that because we all have all these ideas in our head, but
Yes.
a lot of times we get discouraged because it doesn't happen as fast as, and we end up quitting. And so for me, this is something that I've been so committed to. This is my 6th year as an artist. And
Awesome.
so it's been a journey. I've learned so much about myself, and just it's been a great experience. So join me on Instagram and follow my story and everything that I'm doing. Support the records. We're on Spotify. I have 4 singles out. She Makes the Devil's Moan is the new single that's
Yes.
out right now. The visuals are on there. They're on Instagram. They're on YouTube. They're everywhere. So really dive in and get to see what I'm about, and get inspired, and let's be free. Let's be liberated. Let's just do
Yes.
whatever we feel, and let's not fall victim to society and their judgment and the expectations of them. Let's all rely on our own expectations and the things that we want to see for ourselves, and let's just
Yes.
travel down that path.
Yes, and I tell you, it is hot, hot, hot.
Yeah.
So I can't wait. You keep them coming, and thank you again for being on the show. So you guys, listen, we have wrapped it up. I am so excited. This is episode 1 of season 3, and it could not have been with a more amazing gentleman. Thank you again. And listen, if you guys want to continue following me, you know how to find me at Angela Foxworth TV on Instagram, www.theafoxshow.com. And of course, if you're on Facebook, go to the Angela Foxworth Show. You'll be able to stay connected. You'll hear what I'm doing. And I'm just so excited about what is to come. This season is going to be the best season yet. Fanatic, thank you so much. And remember, life with a fox is truly living outside the box. And I am always interviewing with a purpose. You guys have an absolutely wonderful evening. Until I see you guys again, good night. Okay, I'm going to count it down.